Talk about the music, because that also became a trademark, not only of Cooley High, but of a number of films you did after that. Car Wash and The Last Dragon and a number of other films.
Right. Well, music has always kind of been in my DNA. My father was a trumpet player who had the chance to play with some of the big bands and then tour around a little bit, but evidently, eventually did not follow that calling. But I have a great picture of me as a 2-year-old holding his trumpet, and the trumpet's bigger than I am, you know. So, so I grew up with all of that music, and when I did Cooley High, I had 3 songs, I think, or 2 that I wanted the kids to dance to in that little cafe that they were in, and the quarter party thing, you know. So I had those 2 Motown songs, and then the more. And I wanted the My Girl song for when the 2 of them are walking down the railroad tracks. So I started with those songs, and in the editing process, we just kept adding more and more because it just made the film live, you know? And then we had one song written for the movie. Guess what song that was?
It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
Yep. And we tried so hard to get that song, to get the Academy to acknowledge that song. But in that day, they looked at black film like as not worthy, you know? So we couldn't get, we couldn't get the first base trying to get them.
Oh, but you were on the preliminary list. I saw the preliminary list. You were on the preliminary list. You're being kind now, because what happened is there was another movie that year that the song from that other movie ended up being the spot that probably It's So Hard to Yesterday would have gotten. And that was the theme to Mahogany. Because that ended up getting the nomination.
There only can be one at a time, you know.
There only can be one at a time.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, at that time, the broader American public did not value black music. They didn't value Motown music. I mean, it was our soul and, you know, rhythm, but we got all of those songs for the film for under $5,000, you know, way under $5,000.
My.
And I was telling another interviewer the other day, I said, when we made Cooley High, there was no such thing as VHS or DVD. Well, a couple of years after the film was in theaters, out comes VHS. And by that time, the studio could not afford to buy the music. So the movie never wound up on VHS for 12, 15 years.
Wow.
Until Motown was bought by Universal. Whenever that was in time, that's when they made a deal to get it on DVD, you know, or
Okay. Talk a little bit about some of the people you've worked with. For example, you directed Carbon Copy, which was Denzel Washington's first film.
Well, it was a film about a a wealthy white guy who had an extramarital affair in college with a black woman, and little did he know they had a kid, and the kid shows up on the guy's doorstep one day, and that kid turned out to be Denzel Washington, and the father was George Segal. Well, George Segal was this very gifted actor, comedian, seasoned veteran. And Denzel, I saw him sitting out waiting for an interview, and he had such a presence that I went in and told the people I was working with, I said, I think we found our guy, let's bring him in to audition. And when he auditioned, they looked at me and said, yep, I'm right. And Denzel was so secure in himself at that young age that being toe to toe with George Segal didn't faze him one bit. And I remember George and I were sitting, and Denzel was shooting a scene, maybe basketball or something, I can't remember. And we looked at each other and said, yeah, that kid's a star, and he was very, so easy to work with. I can't remember much about the process except how much fun it was,
Well, but you handled that subject matter very well, I thought. I saw the film, I think on HBO in like 82 or 83, and I was surprised to find it. I know it didn't make a lot of money, but it's a really nice film that deals with a lot of issues, and it doesn't play to the stereotypes in any of them.
Right. Yeah, it couldn't make a lot of money in a capitalist society where money is like the thing that everybody needs, So the film was about a guy who chooses to let the money and the society go and be with his son in spite of,
You've also done a lot of television directing,
Thank
especially
goodness.
in later years, including Blackish. Talk a little bit about that work.
Well, I got into episodic television directing pretty much right after To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. We shot it in 16 millimeter, and I had a film I could take out to California and show these guys that I could do it, And I got hired at Universal. And back in the day, if you were a TV director at Universal, you were on a 7-year contract. So Spielberg was on a 7-year contract. I was on a 7-year contract. And the first episodic gig that I got was the Rockford Files. And then movies like TV like Starsky and Hutch and Beretta and Toma and all that. So I was in television big time before I was really in movies. The other films I had done were films for television. So, but because I had done a Broadway show, I had them write in my contract with Universal that if I got a Broadway show or another film, they would have to match that offer or let me out of the contract. So when I got Cooley High, I went to the Mucky Mucks, and I said, I have this movie to do. Can you match it? And they looked at it and they said, kid, if you walk out of this contract, you'll never work in this town again, I said, Okay. Okay. See you later. And so after doing Cooley High and the head of Universal seeing the movie, he calls me up and offers me car wash, you know.
Beautiful. Early in your career, I imagine it might have been a little lonely as far as looking at peers, African American descent. Today, there are so many. Are there any that really stand out, or maybe that you have mentored?
Some that I've kind of semi-mentored through television work, you know. There are a couple of younger female directors that you wouldn't know their names, but they're now doing big television shows like Bridgerton and stuff like that. But no, there's some really gifted, brilliant filmmakers. There not a whole lot of them. Ava DuVernay is one of my favorite because her head is in the right place. Ryan Coogler is brilliant
Yes.
doing what he does. You know, there are other really good directors, but I'm not sure about the material that they're doing. The work is their work as directors are really good, but the material that they're putting out doesn't vibe with me, you know.
And you're still working. How have you seen the industry change, and are you optimistic that it is opening up?
Well, it's closing up right now, you know. But once I really started studying the industry, it's always been this kind of up and down kind of wave. When I first came in to Hollywood, because of the activity in the streets, the civil rights movement, all of that, all the studios were looking for that one black face they could hire and put up and say, okay, we've done our part, you know. But that person was usually a person put there to say no to the other black people who were coming in, you know. So, but eventually in Hollywood, at least, the unions started opening their doors. And so there were more women and women of color, more people of color coming into the crew part of the creative process. And a few executives were being trained to come up, at least in the TV world, you know. And so I saw the complexion of the industry start to change, you know, for the better. But then after a certain number of years, all of that petered out, and you started seeing all of these faces of color and women disappearing from the crews and becoming a little whiter, you know. When I went to New York to do The Last Dragon, I had a crew of like 120 people, and there was only one black person on the entire crew, and he was a Teamster. And so New York was way behind California in terms of opening up the unions. But the picture was so big, and I didn't have time to fight that battle and make the movie at the same time. So I said, I'm coming back to New York. I'm gonna make a movie with an all-black crew just to prove that there's people of qualifications that you all are just not acknowledging. So I came back with this little movie called Crush Groove about the rap movement.
Yes.
And I didn't wind up with an all black crew, but maybe 80%, you
That's
know?
good.
And that crew kind of went on to become Spike Lee's people, you know.
The award that you're receiving, how do you feel about that?
It's kind of weird having an award named after you, you know? Kind of humbling, but I'm excited about it, you know. It makes me want to make a couple more movies so I can live up to the award, right?
Okay. Well, we hope that you do that. Is there anything we haven't talked about with you that you wanted to talk about?
Well, you were talking about the change. Have I seen any change in the industry? Well, right now we're going through a massive change, and there it's a seismic shift because of AI. And the studios are trying to figure out how they can make their movies without hiring human beings, you know, and save on the budget. And the creative human beings are trying to figure out how they're going to use the AI as a tool to make them better at what they do. So right now there's a big kind of pause with the studios making decisions about what to do and what to make, and trying to see how this whole AI thing plays out. So for any young people who are out there who are interested in being in this crazy business, learn everything you can about AI and how to use it to help you develop, you know.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Take care.